Hey everyone, welcome back to Tallulah Talks. I do apologise, today is not Saturday, it is in fact Sunday. I was supposed to do this video yesterday, however I was very busy and by the time I got home I was really tired. So instead of Saturday's haunting hour this week, it is Sunday's haunting hour. And this week we are going to talk about the haunting of the Bell family by what was an entity what was known as the Bell Witch. And I believe this was also the inspiration for an American haunting. However, the haunting happens for a completely different reason in the movie compared to what actually happens in real life. So we're just going to get right down to it in Book of Stories. So, like I said, the Bell Witch was never actually a person accused of witchcraft. It's the Bell Witch is just known as an entity that did haunt the Bell family in the very early 19th century, I believe. The Bell family was reportedly tormented for years by this spirit, and many within this small community actually witnessed what this entity was doing to the family. The haunting was, like I said, was well known in the community, and it did actually catch the attention of the president in the USA at the time. This entity was known to be very violent and provoked both fear and curiosity because no one had witnessed anything like this prior. And at the time, you're talking about the very early 1800s. So in 1886, people came from all over to witness the entity haunting the Bell family, which is quite... it's quite gross, isn't it? Because you're coming to witness the sort of terror that's been put into this family by this invisible entity. The entity was known to have a voice and the attributes of a woman and could hold conversations and actually have physical interactions with not just the Bell family but with whoever had come to visit and see what was happening. The spirit would move around objects and was actually known to pinch children and then laugh at them afterwards. And so back when this was happening to the Bell family, the spirit was thought to be the Bell's neighbours, Kathy Batts, I believe. And she was known as a very mean neighbour to the Bell family. It is believed that, the women believed that John Bell, the patriarch of the family, he had cheated her of some land, and on her deathbed she actually swore to haunt John Bell and his descendants. So that's quite the statement. And so again, the Bells were said to be tormented for years, and the main sort of victims of Kathy, i.e. the Bell Witch, the main victims would be John Bell and his favourite daughter, Betsy. The other family members did also, the spirit did get aggressive with other family members, but she wasn't as bothered by them as she was with John and, for some reason, Betsy. No one ever saw the spirit. However, the family themselves and visitors did hear her, and her voice was said to be speaking at quite a high, uncomfortable pitch. At other times, the spirit could be heard singing, and she was known to often throw around furniture and dishes at any family member. So although she wasn't too bothered by the other family members, she did still torment them a little bit. She would often pull on the family's noses, yank hair, and poke needles into them. But like, that's like, I don't know why, because I'm guessing she was maybe like old when she died, and like, I get she's angry, she feels cheated, but I don't get why you would torment the children. But hey ho, we don't know what happens in the spirit realm. She was also said to yell all night to keep the whole family from sleeping. And when word of the haunting reached Nashville, so this did happen in a very small town in Tennessee. So when this reached Nashville, a man called Andrew Jackson decided that he was going to do some investigating. So Jackson was known through his tough reputation because he was involved in conflicts with the Native Americans at this time. And he was determined to kind of either expose this as a massive hoax or get rid of the entity altogether. So one day Jackson and his men rode to the town of Adam on horseback and like carriage, I guess, and they were all discussing how they would get rid of the entity. At the time, they were travelling over like a very smooth road. However, the wagon suddenly stopped and just got stuck. It was as if it was like stuck in like really deep mud or something. And the driver of the wagon and the horses had got out and attempted to move the wagon, but just to no avail. So they described it as being stuck as if it was welded to the road. Jackson at this point then orders his men to dismount and help get the wagon unstuck. However, nothing could be done, and they then decided to take the wheels off one at a time to see if there was anything wrong with the wheels. However, they were turning well, and at this time, all of the men heard a voice saying, "All right, General, let the wagon move on. I will see you again tonight." So that was a bit weird. The men couldn't find the source of the voice, and at this time, the horses were then able to begin moving again, and the wagon along with it. So at the Bell home at this point, Betsy had been screaming all night from being pinched by an invisible source, and the entity was also said to be slapping Betsy as well. So Jackson's covers that night in the wagon, so this is back to Jackson, was quickly ripped off of him, and him and his men were pinched, slapped, and had their hair pulled all night long. And in the morning, Jackson and his men just left. They didn't even bother making the whole journey to Adam. And Jackson stated that he would rather fight the British than fight the Bell Witch. This must have obviously terrified them. At this point, the entity did continue to haunt the Bell family for years. The spirit had the ultimate act of revenge at this point. So the ghost actually took responsibility for John Bell's death. In October 1820, John Bell was struck with some kind of illness. And many believed he actually suffered a stroke at this time, because at the time he had difficulty speaking and swallowing. On December 19th, 1820, John actually failed to wake up, and the family found him in a stupor and he just couldn't be awakened. John Jr. at this time went to the medicine cabinet and noticed that his dad's medicine was gone and replaced with a strange looking vial. So I'm not sure if he gave his dad this medicine or if he just called the doctor, but the doctor was then summoned to the house, and the ghost then began taunting the family that she had actually left that vial. She claimed that she had given John a dose of what was in the vial while he slept. So obviously they didn't really know what was in this vial, so they then decided to test the contents of the vial on the cat. It's not funny, but anyway. It was then discovered to be poisonous. I'm guessing the cat died. Like, why would you try that on a cat? That's... yeah. And John Bell then died December 20th of 1820. And throughout the funeral, the entity was silent until after the funeral, where I believe she started singing and laughing, and I think quite a few people actually heard her. It said that after the grave was filled, Kate, the Bell Witch, could be heard singing quite joyously, because she was obviously quite happy that John had died, and obviously the fact that she was taking responsibility for that. The Bell Witch eventually left the Bell household in 1821, but she did state, however, that she would be back in 7 years' time. And true to her promise, she came back 7 years later, where I guess John Jr. and the rest of the family was living in the house, but I think it mainly centered around John Jr. And he said that the Bell Witch left him prophecies of future events that obviously hadn't taken place yet. The prophecies included the Civil War and World War I and World War II. The witch then stated she would return after 107 years. However, we don't know if she ever came back, because I don't think there were any other reports of her presence at this time. And I don't even know if anyone lived in the house after the Bell family. I couldn't find anything. But I think people still do visit, like, the community. Some claim that the entity does still haunt the area, because, like I said, I think it is not a tourist attraction, but it is somewhere people go to see if she's still there. Many locals have visited the cave by the Bell's property. So behind the Bell's property there was a cave, and many have claimed that they see strange apparitions of a woman in the cave and around the property. So many do believe that the haunting was a hoax done by Betsy, the favourite child of John Bell. And this was because... no, not done by Betsy, sorry, done by Betsy's school teacher. So basically the school teacher... so inappropriate, but the school teacher had this infatuation with Betsy. However, she was going out with a local boy at the time. I think his name was Joshua Gardner. And so the teacher was quite pissed off by this, I guess. And he then decided to people think he decided to set up this whole hoax of what happened to the Bell family. However, it's never really been explained how the teacher managed to do this at this time. So obviously, to do everything that was said, so like the female voice, the apparitions, the pinching, slapping, complete torment of the family, he would have had to be in or around the house at that time. He would have had to get others involved, surely, to have like a woman's voice involved. But anyway, there are a few who believe it's a hoax. However, the majority believe that this was a real haunting. And yeah, that is the story of the famous Bell Witch, and that must have been absolutely terrifying. I say that every time I do a paranormal case, but it must be terrifying. If you have any haunting cases you would like me to look into, definitely leave a comment. And if this is the sort of content you like, I am usually here on a Saturday with these cases. Hit that subscribe button, and I will see you on Wednesday for Killer Wednesday.